Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon Sword and Shield moveset video. Today's video is going to be all about the Fox Pokemon Thievul, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Thievul is a pure Dark-type Pokemon with access to 3 abilities, the first of which being Runaway, which is an ability that unfortunately has absolutely no competitive value, as all it does is help you leave battles easier in the actual game. But its second ability, Unburden, is actually a rather unique ability that allows you to double your speed when you either consume or lose your held item. And finally, this Pokemon's last ability, known as Stakeout, is currently unreleased at the time of me making this video, but what it does is it allows you to basically deal double damage to your opponent if they decide to switch out, and this damage is dealt to the switch-in, which is very, very useful for allowing this Pokemon to just hit whatever switches in to Thievul incredibly hard. Now, even though it is unreleased, there are a couple of movesets where I will recommend it as an option because it does function very well for the time being, so just keep that in mind and just switch over to that ability once it is actually officially released. But for the stats, this Pokemon defensively isn't too amazing. It possesses a rather average base 70 HP, a pretty below average base 58 defense, but a rather above average 92 special defense, which can allow this Pokemon some interesting utility if running it with some special defense investment or with an assault vest, as it will take special hits pretty well. Offensively though, it has a base 58 physical attack, which isn't super great, an average about 87 special attack, which it can actually make use of very easily because it does also get access to Nasty Plot, and a 90 base speed stat, which is a pretty quick speed stat for a Pokemon like this. And being a dark type, it has access to some amazing coverage options as well as utility options that really does give it a ton of usefulness in battle, even though its stats aren't going to be among some of the best that you're going to be seeing from some of the other Pokemon you might be using. But with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the first moveset that I have for you in this video. So for this first moveset, we're going to be using Thievul as a utility pivot Pokemon to basically make use of its amazing Dark-type move pool, and also potentially be either really fast or bulky in the process. So we're going to start this one off by going with either a Jolly Nature to boost your speed but lower your special attack, or a Careful Nature to boost your special defense but lower your special attack. And for the ability, preferably going with Stakeout, but Unburden is going to have to do for now, as Stakeout is currently unreleased, as I mentioned before. As for the EVs, we're going to max our HP with 252 EVs into that, and put 4 EVs into its defense. And then for the last 252 EVs, we're going to use this to either max out its special defense, along with the Careful Nature to make this Pokemon as especially bulky as possible, or max out its speed stat along with the Jolly Nature to make this Pokemon as fast as possible. And both of these options work very well for the purposes of this set, and just allowing this Pokemon to last for a long time, weave in and out of battle, and just make use of its great Dark-type options. For the item though, we're going to either run Leftovers to allow it to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn, or the new Heavy Duty Boots item to make it so that this Pokemon doesn't take any entry hazard damage when it switches in, which can be very beneficial since this set is basically designed to switch in and out constantly. But we could also potentially even run an Assault Vest on this Pokemon to boost its special defense further, while also making it so that it unfortunately cannot use any non-attacking moves. But for the moves on the set, Sucker Punch is going to be our first option, as it's going to give this Pokemon a decently powerful priority option to use if your opponent is trying to attack you, which in general just allows this Pokemon to be a pretty decent revenge killer against weakened opponents. Then we have Knockoff as an option as well, to allow us to have a pretty powerful Dark-type move that will also be removing our opponent's item, which is incredibly handy. But Taunt is also listed here as well, to allow this Pokemon the ability to prevent its opponents from using any non-attacking moves that they would be trying to use to potentially set up hazards or boost their stats, or a variety of other things that your opponents could benefit from using. As for your third attack, we're going to be going with Foul Play, and this really is going to be the main way that you're dealing damage on this set, because this Pokemon unfortunately doesn't have a great physical attack stat. So Foul Play obviously uses your opponent's physical attack instead, but you still get Dark-type stab on it, which is amazing. Or again, you could just run Taunt here if you want to. Finally, for the last move on the set, we have either Parting Shot to allow us to switch in and out of battle while lowering your opponent's physical and special attack, or U-Turn to allow you to switch in and out of battle while dealing a little bit of damage in the process. But both options are great for allowing the set to function incredibly well as a utility pivot for your team. As for the second moveset, we're going to utilize Thievul as a choiced special attacker. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Timid Nature to boost its speed but lower its physical attack, and for the ability, preferably going with Stakeout once it's released, but going with Unburdened for now. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into its defense and then max out its special attack and speed stats with 252 EVs into both of those. And for the item, running either choice specs to boost our special attack while locking us into a move, or a choice scarf to boost our speed while locking us into a move. As for those moves though, the first one on this set is going to be Dark Pulse, which is going to be our main stab dark type attack that also has a nice chance to flinch our opponents, which can come in handy when that does occur. And then we're going to go ahead and run Psychic as our secondary attack to give us Pokemon a decent Psychic type coverage option that's primarily useful against the opposing Fighting type Pokemon that could easily resist your Dark type moves. As for your third attack, we have a few options here. Grass Knot can be a decently powerful Grass type option based on your opponent's weight, but Shadow Ball is a little bit more of a consistent Ghost type option that can be coming in handy as well for purposes of type coverage. Lastly though, we also have Mud Shot here, which is a pretty weak option, but can be very useful if you were to potentially Dynamax this Thievul, as Mud Shot turns into a much powerful move, and ground type coverage is really good for allowing this Pokemon to hit quite a bit of things super effectively. As for its last move though, again, we're going to include Parting Shot as a way to switch out while lowering your opponent's offensive stats, or U-Turn as a way to switch out while also dealing a little bit of damage in the process, but both options are very useful for a set like this, as being choice locked into the wrong move can be a bad thing. So having this option to switch out when also, dealing a little bit of damage or supporting your team by lowering your opponent's stats can be incredibly valuable for a set like this one where we're trying to just pick the right option at a time and deal as much damage as possible. As for this third moveset, we're going to be using Thievul as a special attacking boosting Pokemon to increase its power further. And this set actually has quite a few different ways that it can function, so I'll try to talk about all of them in as clear a way as possible. But we're going to start this one off by giving it either a timid nature to boost its speed but lower its physical attack, or a modest nature to boost its special attack but lower its physical attack. And then for the ability, either going with Unburden or Stakeout, depending really on the item that you go with. As to the EVs though, again, we're going to run 4 defense, 252 special attack, and 252 speed EVs to max out your special attack and speed. As for the items though, the first one that's kind of across the board good is just running a Life Orb to boost the power of all of your attacks at the cost of losing 10% of your health every time you damage an opponent. But the Psychic Seed, Grassy Seed, and also Papaya Berry have some interesting applications with the moves that you're using on this set, which can seek to activate your Unburden ability. Now, if you're not going to be running Unburden, and you just want to run a Life Orb, Stakeout is by far the superior option here. But for the moves, the first one that we're going to go with is going to be Nasty Plot, which will be boosting your special attack by 2 stages every single time you go for it, which will make this Pokemon incredibly powerful. Then we're going to go ahead and run Dark Pulse again as our main stab dark type move, and Psychic for really our secondary best coverage option. As for your third move on the set, this is where things get rather interesting. Grass Knot is a pretty good grass type move as I mentioned before, but if you use this in combination with the Grassy Seed item and you Dynamax Thievul and then use the Max Grass move that you have access to, you will set up Grassy Terrain, which will then activate your Grassy Seed. And this will then activate your Unburden ability, which will make you incredibly fast. And this works the exact same way with running the Psychic Seed as well alongside Psychic as your move, because that'll set up Psychic Terrain, which will then activate your Unburden when the Psychic Seed activates as a result of the terrain being up. But again, we also have Mud Shot as an option here, just for, a dark type option that can be useful when Dynamaxed, or even just running Parting Shot to allow this Pokemon the ability to set up, but also that great utility in being able to switch out while lowering your opponent's stats. However, if you want to try and boost your attack further while also being a little bit safer in doing it, trying to then activate your Unburden ability, Substitute is a way to go, because you can get behind a protective barrier to shield you from attacks and statuses, and then proceed to set up behind that. And we're going to go with a Papaya Berry here, because that's going to be boosting your special attack when you get to 25% of your health or less, which you can do very easily with the Substitute move. And this will just boost your special attack further, because your speed is just going to go through the roof once you activate your Papaya Berry, and then your Unburden ability is in effect. So there's a lot of really cool utility you get with the max moves with this particular set to help you activate your Unburden ability, and this is one of the coolest ways I think to actually make use of this Pokemon, because it can be incredibly powerful and also set up a variety of effects on the battlefield while boosting your stats in the process. Finally, for the last moveset of this video, we're going to be using Thievul as a physically offensive boosting attacker. So we're going to start this one off by giving it either a Jolly Nature to boost your speed but lower your special attack, or an Adamant Nature to boost your physical attack but lower your special attack. And for the ability, Unburden I think across the board is just a better option. You're really not going to be getting too much use out of Stakeout on this particular set. But for the EVs, we're going to maximize our physical attack and our speed this time with 252 EVs into both of those, while putting the remainder 4 into your defense. And for the item, again, Life Orb being the universally good option, but there are a few other unique items that you could potentially run as well in the same vein as the previous moveset to allow this Pokemon to activate its Unburden ability. But for the first move on the set, we're going to go ahead and run Hone Claws, which will be boosting our physical attack and also our accuracy by 1 stage. And the accuracy increase isn't super important for this set, but there are a few moves that are like 90 to 95% accurate that can potentially miss, so it is at least a good thing for this set in general, which is pretty awesome. But for our main Dark-type stab, we're going to use either Knockoff, Crudge, or Sucker Punch to allow us to have a pretty powerful option in damaging our opponents with our stab attacks. Knockoff being a pretty good, just universally good option because it allows you to obviously remove an opponent's item, but Crudge can be more beneficial as it has a chance to lower your opponent's defense, which can allow this Pokemon a chance to actually break through physically defensive walls if you get that chance to occur. And Sucker Punch, obviously just being a great priority option, is also always beneficial. As for your second attack though, we're going to go ahead and include Play Rough, which is a very important move for this particular set in my opinion, as it is a fairy type move that will allow you to actually hit dark and fighting type Pokemon super effectively that would be resisting your dark type moves, in addition to also allowing you to have the ability to hit dragon types super effectively, which is pretty awesome. And this, alongside our Misty Seed as an item, can be a way to allow you to actually activate your Unburden ability if you were to Dynamax this Pokemon and use the max fairy type move that you get out of it, because obviously then the Misty Seed will activate because you're going to be setting up Misty Terrain, and thus you are now unburdened and very, very fast. But Acrobatics can also be an additionally great option, as it's boosted in power when you aren't holding an item, and there are quite a few items on the set that we can get rid of as we make use of them to actually maximize the power of Acrobatics very easily. Additionally though, for our last move, again Acrobatics is there, but we have Thunderfang as a unique option which can work alongside the Electric Seed to allow you to set up Electric Terrain and thus activate your Unburden ability, but we also have the other Elemental, Ice, and Fire Fang moves as well for some additional coverage options. But like on the previous moveset, Substitute is also a great option there to allow you to get behind a protective barrier to shield you from attacks and statuses while you attempt to set up, and this is a great way to get you in the range where your Lychee Berry is going to be activating to increase your physical attack further and also then activate your Unburden ability. Now I would also just like to point out that you could even run Sucker Punch alongside another dark type coverage option on the set just to give you the priority move if you need it, because that can always be very beneficial, though it does limit your type coverage a little bit. But all in all, this is a pretty awesome way to run a physically offensive Thievul that has some really unique attributes associated with it. But anyways everybody, that is it for this video on Thievul. I think this Pokemon overall is very interesting, even though its stats are somewhat underwhelming compared to some other Pokemon that might have been introduced in Generation 8, but I think it's just a rather unique looking Pokemon in general and has some really cool options to work with. So everybody, that is it for this video again, so as always, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.